Patrick McNeil joined now at the intermission by Rouyn-Noranda Huskies color commentator Benoit Perron, and the Huskies off to another strong start as we record this before the weekend play. I guess first off, Benoit, is the party still going in Rouyn-Noranda from the Memorial Cup Championship?
No, not really. After so many players have left the team, obviously we had the huge celebration on game day when we raised the banners, and finally we were able to see that Memorial Cup banner, one that we lost actually in overtime the first time we were in the Memorial Cup. So we're pretty happy to be the first team in Abitibi-Témiscamingue to get that Memorial Cup banner.
Certainly very exciting days in Rouyn-Noranda. This team obviously not a powerhouse on a national level this year, but still off to a fairly good start. What is it about this Huskies culture, I guess, that this team just keeps winning?
It's a combination of a few things, but the most important thing, I think, the play of Zach Emond. He's been just lights out, basically. Except maybe for the first game, he played extremely well, especially on the road and in Quebec City. I haven't checked his goal against average at the Centre Vidéotron in Quebec, but I know last year he had 2 shutouts, played 2 huge games during the last trip, and also the play of the veterans. Tyler Heinem has been playing extremely well. I think he gained a lot of confidence at that Memorial Cup run. Same thing with Vincent Marleau. And the last weekend was a bit tougher, but I guess they're missing 3 veterans that are out of the lineup because of injuries. Their most defensive defenseman is out with a major concussion, so that's why it was a bit tougher last weekend. But pretty interesting start for the Huskies, definitely.
You mentioned some key performances from 20-year-olds in Marleau and Heinem. Sometimes when teams win, the next year they do better than expected because guys that maybe didn't get the opportunity the year before will step up. Is there anybody that you think fits that criteria in Rouyn-Noranda? Obviously, Zach Emond would be one of those players too.
Zach Emond, he didn't play all that much last year because of Samuel Harvey being the first netminder, but definitely Zachary knew that he was going to see a lot of play this year. He's been playing very well. You mentioned people that didn't play as much last year. I think it's the case with Tyler Heinem. Last year it was sometimes on the 4th line, sometimes on the 3rd line, and he would have been maybe a second liner for any team in the queue last year, maybe except for a few teams. He's getting a lot of ice time, obviously playing on the power play, playing on the PK as well. Same thing for Vincent Marleau and Louis-Philippe Côté. So these 3 20-year-olds are getting a lot of ice time. And I can also mention the play of Alexis Arsenault, defenseman that was on the 3rd pairing last year. He stepped up quite a bit this year.
Stepping away from the team on the ice, and I'm not sure how much knowledge you have on this, I know there was an issue with a lot of arenas around the league needing to make adjustments to bring things up to speed. I know the ice is short in Rouyn-Noranda. Is there any progress on changes to the rink coming up?
No, I haven't heard anything on that front. I know that they were talking about doing all the boards because I know that in Val-d'Or and in Rouen, they're pretty stiff actually, but nothing about the ice. Actually, in Rouen, yes, the ice surface is one of the smallest in the queue, but they've had so much problem with the ice itself that if there's improvement to be made, that's where they should start with.
Yeah, it might actually be the ice quality as opposed to anything else. Given the fact the team's off to a decent start and not in a super strong division, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility the Huskies could win the West Division this year. How do you think that influences their plans going forward? What do you see this team doing at Christmas time?
At Christmas time, I think that everything's going to be up in the air. First, I think that the Noah Dobson situation obviously is going to play a major role. It looks like he's going to be staying for the entire season. That's at least if he keeps playing like he did in his first game. But who knows? If the same thing happens with him that happened with Maxime Comtois last year, where he was lent to the junior Canadian team, and then if he comes back in the queue after Christmas, then obviously the Huskies will be able to deal him. But I would think that the Huskies are going to probably be sellers. Even if they are ahead in their division, they need to get draft picks because they gave quite a few last year.
You were talking about Justin Bergeron earlier. Where do you think he fits, I guess, in the pecking order of elite defensemen in the QMJHL this year?
He raised his defensive play, which is going to make him very attractive, I think, come Christmas time. We've always known that Justin Bergeron's offensive skills are there. He sees the ice very well. He's got a good shot as well. As I said, he's improved his defensive play. He's more gritty, I think, than he was before. I think there's going to be a lot of demand for him come Christmas time. I think that any team wants to have a guy that has won before, wants to have a guy that has all the tools and the skills as well. And I think that he's going to be on the radar of quite a few teams come Christmas time.
Very good. Lastly, anything else that's catching your eye on this Huskies team based on the start of the season?
Actually, right now they're short on staff a little bit with their 3 key injuries. So I know that the veterans are playing a lot of minutes. As I said, didn't draft many players this past draft, and then they traded also most of their few first picks from the draft before. They're going to have to make sure that the new players fit in with the culture and improve on a daily basis.
Well, it's been good the last few years. We'll see if it continues on. Great insight as always, Benoit. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Patrick. Anytime.
That's Benoit Perron. He's color commentator with the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies as we look at the Huskies during tonight's game. Eagles and Huskies here at Center 200. You're listening to the intermission of Carstar, Cape Breton Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.